Hey everyone, welcome back to Grumpy Monkey Technical Trading. My name's Michael. On the program today, Twitter. We're going to be talking about their earnings results and how that looks on the chart. So your favorite source of fantasy football information, Pat and Oswald social commentary, and an underperforming company all to come together today. Stay tuned. Twitter, we have such hope for you, but you keep disappointing us, and yet again, this week we were disappointed. I don't personally own Twitter, but it is one that I've paid attention to quite frequently. The earnings were, well, disappointing. They made a bit more money, which was important, or they beat expectations on that. But their expenses were a bit higher because they're trying to provide compensation for their employees. Engagement, more importantly, was down, and adding the user base was down. So if engagement particularly is down, then we're in for some trouble, and that's what happened with the stock. So if we look at the weekly chart again here, you can see that I've drawn my channels. So I've drawn this lower channel level. This was in place actually before the earnings were announced, and I just took a look at it again. And then we have our upper channel. You can see here that we're still sort of in the horizontal, this lower channel here, and we've touched it now, rebounded slightly. So that's a big drop. That's a big engulfing candle that's happened. Our RSI is now getting into the oversold. So I'm starting to like where we're getting to with the price on Twitter. I don't know if it's ready yet to really reverse without some news, some positive news about engagement. So maybe that comes with Project Lightning in the fall, hopefully, and it would gear it up. But overall, I'm starting to like this price level. People confuse Twitter all the time, in my opinion. They think that it doesn't really have like a point or an idea behind it. But to me, it has a perfect point. It has the idea that it's the social media of now, right? Facebook's what you use for your friends and family, getting social events together. LinkedIn is where you put your company profile and your resume. Completely different purpose. And Twitter is the sort of the anonymous now, where you just sort of blurt out things, and you're not really necessarily paying attention who they're directed to. And you use it more like a news source and a resource rather than like a social gathering place, at least in my view. That's how I use it. I actually use it a lot more now for things like fantasy football, as I mentioned, as well as some news updates. Like if the electricity goes out, I check Twitter. So it has a purpose. They just need to kind of wrap the story together a bit better. And I think when they do, the stock is going to take off. So let's look at potential entry points. So right now we're pressed up against this resistance point. This is a key resistance point, I should point out. We don't really want to go under there. Actually, we absolutely don't want to go under there. But if we do, I predict it would be for a short time. So probably if we do go under, it'll be next week. And I think we would get into this sort of this boundary area that I've defined in green, which would be the absolute lowest low as the bottom boundary, and then the secondary low. So somewhere in this range. So you could potentially look at picking up Twitter if it was something that you personally were interested in at about 30 bucks-ish, maybe. Now, because it's one of those social media ones, it also means that any sort of news, so if a Carl Icahn comes in and says, oh, I like Twitter now, it's going to skyrocket. So you have to take everything with a grain of salt, but that's my interpretation, that engulfing candle will probably lead down again next week for a little bit more. Now let's take a look at the daily chart. Okay, so with the daily, what we're seeing here is it's plunged below that same boundary that I defined here. It's just sharpened up a bit more in the daily chart. And you can see today, which is Thursday, it's come back and it's pinged up against that. So if it can break through that line tomorrow or Monday, then you're back within that channel properly, and it's going to sort of stay in there. If it can't break that resistance point on the upper end, then we're going to go down. So it could go down again, just based on not breaking through. So otherwise, obviously not looking good for Twitter. But if you did believe in it and you wanted a play, and you thought if you believe me and you thought it was going down, one play you could do is you could actually sell a put contract, which would mean that you would get it at a bit of a premium, potentially in that area, and if it didn't fall to that area, then you would just collect the premium. I love calls and put contracts, the covered kind, particularly in my retirement fund. Because if I'm planning on holding a stock for a long time, selling covered calls is an extra way for me to generate income that isn't related to my dividends. So dividends technically are the company taking money out of the stock and giving it to you. So technically the stock should devalue by the same amount. The covered calls, however, are things that you do against other traders. So they're a way of generating small amounts of income. Selling puts is another way of doing that, which basically says I'm going to buy a stock at a particular value. If it falls below it, no matter what, and I want a premium, I'm going to take the risk on that. So in this instance, if you said in 8 days, I wanted to buy it at $31, you could get a 48-cent premium for that and basically buy it at $30.02. So you would win if it was below that, above that, but below 31, or if it didn't make it at all, you would win that money, minus obviously your service fee with your thing. So that's an interesting play that you should think about. But overall, not looking great for Twitter until they can turn it around. Hopefully Project Lightning coming out in the fall would be good. And I predict, because I'm a fantasy football lover, that you got 16 weeks of people caring about whether Doug Martin is going to be a crappy running back. And the best and fastest way to get that information is through Twitter. So that's my show for today. Please tune in again when I bring you another show, probably later in the week. Subscribe, like the show. Love having you, and look forward to doing this again soon. Bye.